Good morning. Today we are going to talk about profit maximization in the short run. First, we have to review what we did in case of perfect competition, and then we are going to talk about imperfect competition or special case of monopoly. Okay, so let's start with perfect competition or profit maximization in case of perfect competition in the short run. The condition for profit maximization in the short run is stated as marginal productivity of labor equal wage over price. Or we can write it as B equal wage over marginal productivity of labor. This means that if the producer adds one more or one additional worker, if producer employ the output will increase by the amount of marginal productivity of labor and total cost will increase by the amount of wage paid for this worker. So this means that wage over marginal productivity of labor is the change in total cost for an additional unit of output. So this is equivalent to the marginal cost. So wage over marginal productivity of labor is equivalent to marginal cost. As we said that in case of perfect competition, profit maximization condition in case of marginality would be marginal revenue equal marginal cost. Marginal revenue is the price of the commodity, and marginal cost will be wage over marginal productivity of labor. So this is the marginal cost. So this is the same condition that has been explained before. So we can write it as B equal marginal revenue equal marginal cost, or we can write it as B equal wage over marginal productivity of labor. And as we said that these points can be represented graphical as this is the quantity and the price of the commodity, demand and supply. Point of intersection is the point of equilibrium. At this point, so this is the marginal revenue or the price of the commodity, and this is the marginal cost curve. Point E is the point of equilibrium at which we can identify the quantities that maximize profit. Now we are going to add the average cost curve to this figure. This is the average cost curve. So this figure shows that the profit maximizing condition is that marginal revenue or the price line intersects with or equivalent to marginal cost. At this point, as this condition will be satisfied at point E, and the Q star is the quantity that maximize or satisfy the condition of maximum profit. Average cost is identified by point C, and it's equivalent to point B on the vertical axis. Now we would like to calculate the amount of profit at this point, at point E. This can be done as rho, which is a profit, by which is a profit. It's calculated as R minus C, or B multiplied by Q minus cost minus C, where C is the total cost, B is the price of the commodity, and Q is the quantity. So if you are going to calculate the average value for the whole equation, so this is the average profits, it will be profit divided by the quantity, just like any average, as we said before, that average of any product, average of anything is total divided by the number. So in case of average profit, it is the total profit divided by the quantity produced, equal B multiplied by Q divided by Q minus C over Q. So this can be written as average profit equals average revenue, as BQ divided by Q is the average revenue, minus average cost. So we can write profit as profit equals average revenue minus average cost multiplied by Q. Average revenue minus average cost is measured by the distance BB. So this is average revenue minus average cost, or the average profit. So the area of rectangle BBCE is the total profit of the firm. Or we can say that this is profit per unit. If you multiply it for the whole number of units produced, so this will be the total profit. What about the shutdown point? Shutdown point in the short run. Actually, producers are going to pay the fixed cost whether they are going to produce 1000 units or 0 units. So the fixed cost is constant. They have to pay this amount even if the production is 0. So if the number of units produced equals 0, so producers will incur will incur loss, which is equivalent to the fixed cost. From economic point of view, if the producer generates revenues that are enough to cover the variable cost, he or she will continue to produce even though he or she incurs loss. So if revenue is greater than variable cost, so production will increase even if the production will continue even if there is a loss. Producer incurs loss, which is equivalent to the fixed cost. So this is equivalent to not greater than. And if the producer couldn't generate revenue, which is equivalent to the variable cost, he or she must shut down. So now we have to illustrate the point of shutdown graphically. This is marginal revenue or price, and it's equivalent to average revenue in case of perfect competition. And this is the marginal cost, and this is the average cost. Sorry, this is the average variable cost, and finally this is the average cost. So point E in this case is the shutdown point, where the average variable cost is equivalent to average revenue or the price. This is shutdown point. Why? As the firm couldn't cover the fixed cost, and it covers only the variable cost. So this is the shutdown point. At this point, the firm should shut down. Okay, so this is the case of perfect competition. What about the non-perfect competition? Or especially we are going to talk about monopoly. As we said, that monopoly means that there is only one seller in the market. He is a price maker, There is no entry to this market as there are many barriers to enter the market. Information is imperfect. There is no product differentiation. Demand is less price elastic. So the same profit maximization condition is the same in case of perfect competition and in case of monopoly, which is that marginal revenue equal marginal cost. Or in other words, we can write it as profit is calculated as average revenue minus average cost multiplied by Q. We would like to maximize this profit. But actually, in case of monopoly, price and marginal revenue are not the same, are not identical to each other. Price also is no longer fixed, it's not a fixed amount. And the demand curve is going to be affected by the elasticity of demand. So we can draw the demand curve and the marginal revenue curves as this is the demand curve and this is marginal revenue curve. While the marginal cost curve is gonna be the same, this is marginal cost, and also average cost, this is the average cost. The point of intersection of marginal costs and marginal revenue is the point of profit maximization at quantity Q star. If you would like to calculate profit per unit will be calculated as the difference between the average cost and the price or the marginal revenue. So BD is profit per unit. And the area of rectangle BD BA is the maximum profit or the total profit that can be generated from producing quantity Q star. This is the end of our lecture today. Thank you and see you next week.